My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me now and we will explore these topics and so much more with fascinating guests, authors, and experts who will guide us to Destination Unlimited. Are you empathic or sensitive? Many of our listening audience would define themselves this way. Do you find yourself sensing the feelings of other people, including their physical and emotional pain and anger, as well as their feelings of happiness and joy? How do you process the feelings you receive? Do you confuse them with your own feelings? Does this sometimes result in physical and emotional stress or even manifestations of illness? Dr. Kyra Mesich helps sensitive people find their power and strength. Sensitive individuals often feel dismissed and misunderstood. Dr. Kyra gets it. As a highly sensitive person herself, she's traveled the road from being uncomfortable and overwhelmed to grounded and confident. A psychotherapist and holistic health practitioner, Dr. Kyra employs a unique approach which will transform how you think about yourself, give you tools to feel balanced and peaceful, and inspire you to stand up for yourself with confidence. Her new book, Strength of Sensitivity, Understanding Empathy for a Life of Emotional Peace and Balance, is filled with the holistic tools and methods she has found and used to empower herself and sensitive people to create a healthier relationship with their abilities. Please welcome Dr. Kyra. Good evening, Kyra.
Oh, great intro, Victor. Thank you. Well, I'm delighted to be here.
My pleasure, and thank you. Your work is very important because, as I said in the beginning, many of our listening audience, including myself, have been sensitive or empathic since childhood and have found a great deal of difficulty, number one, in processing what we pick up, and number two, in being able to express ourselves properly and correctly to others so that they understand what's going on. But let's start with your path, first of all. How did you find yourself as a sensitive early in life, and how has it affected your life?
Okay, well, I will say, yes, indeed, I am a sensitive person. I spent a good deal of my early life, as many of your listeners probably have felt or feel, like being the odd one in the family, getting bullied or picked on, being misunderstood, struggling with stimulus overload in loud or crowded environments, being fatigued, depressed. So my journey when I was a child, I was aware of my sensitivity, or the kids at school made that clear if I wasn't feeling it that day. Yep. And I really did want to, so I was well aware of it. I can remember watching, it's stereotypical as this is, listening to it's kids' entertainment, Puff the Magic Dragon, Bambi, and everyone's always got to die. Why did everybody always have to die at the end of those things, Victor? So, a kid, and I'm just in tears saying, I don't know what's wrong with these people. Yeah. Why do they make this kind of entertainment for kids? So, which leads me to what, you and I were talking before we came on the air. And, I don't watch the news. I find out what's going on through other means rather than the drama of seeing it presented in a dramatic, fashion. So, that's my long answer, to you. You can get me back on track here.
Not at all. In fact, that leads to the next question, which was, how did your family deal with your sensitivity? Was any member of your family sensitive also?
Oh, that's a great question, because my mother was a very sensitive person. And so what did she do? She did her best to mask it and hide it and never show any emotion whatsoever if possible. And so this is pretty typical. So there may be other people who are sensitive in the family, but they don't express it in the same way that maybe you did. And it's not until you look back in retrospect that you can figure that out.
Now, let's talk a little bit more about some of the things that you discussed, because these are things that I've personally experienced and that people I know have experienced. The inability, number one, when you were in school, did you find it difficult to have relationships with other kids?
Right. A lot of sensitive kids and sensitive people, we were mature kind of before our time.
Mm-hmm.
And so often sensitive kids will find that they get along better with adults.
Absolutely.
And that was definitely the case with me.
Mm-hmm. Did you find yourself to be a loner at times?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I would, and I needed that. Now, I'm an introvert as well as being sensitive. Not every sensitive person is an introvert, but when you've got both of those going, then I needed that time to recharge.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in my room just by myself, recharging.
Absolutely. And then going into a shopping center, a supermarket, places with fluorescent lighting is one of the things that I've always found problems with.
Yeah, that's a common one for people. There are, everybody is different. And so each sensitive person is going to have their own things that are more pressing for them, whether it's sounds or the lights or EMF or more emotional or more energetic. It just depends on the person. But yeah, I really struggled with that when I was younger. And I think things will change over time as sensitivity becomes more accepted and people become more aware. But, why do restaurants just have to be so loud, and crowded? I think the way things are designed and the way things are presented, the loudness of the music in stores and things like that, I think that will change over time, especially as we begin to make our needs known.
And in terms of being bullied, and I know this is something that many of us who are sensitive or empathic have experienced when we were younger, what was that like?
It's different for everyone. For me personally, it was at school, and I was incredibly aware, of what that social ladder was, and I had good social skills, but like I said, I got along better with adults than kids. So the cruelty or short-sightedness or just, harshness of kids and sometimes what they would say just blew me away.
Yeah.
And I didn't know at all how to cope with that. So my responses weren't on their same level. So therefore, you become weird.
Yeah, absolutely. You become what we used to call the otherkin. We were different. We were not the same
Right,
as
that's a good term.
else.
And for some clients, they'll say to me, "Well, I wasn't bullied, as a kid." Well, then when I talk to them more, I find out maybe it was more someone in their family, or maybe it doesn't happen until they're older and it's a boss.
Yeah.
It does it, but it comes around usually for everybody at some point.
Okay, let's do a little bit of a glossary here, a little bit of definition. So let's talk about the definition of what you would call sensitivity.
Yeah, we definitely should back up a little bit here and be clear. I define a sensitive person as someone who experiences the world with more impact than perhaps someone else does. And what's different about me is that I look at sensitivity from a truly holistic mind, body, spirit perspective. Emotional sensitivity is what seems to get more press and what people understand a little better. And that's going to be people who feel emotions very deeply. Maybe we avoid conflict. If we get upset about something, it's really difficult to shake it off. People kind of understand that type of sensitivity. But then there's also, of course, the physical, environmental sensitivities. This is, like you mentioned earlier, being more, I believe it's that our nervous systems literally react, and I cited some studies in my book that demonstrate how our bodies physiologically react more strongly to stimuli. Mm-hmm. So that's simply what's happening. We are responding more strongly. So what someone else can kind of shrug off, or maybe it gives them a little headache, but it's not that big of a deal, can almost be intolerable for us and make us sicker in the process. And then so we've done emotional and physical. There's also an energetic side to being a sensitive person. that's just a matter of shifting your focus and realizing, well, heck yeah. I mean, if we're sensitive to everything. So that means we're sensitive to energy, whether that is EMF, electromagnetic frequency from things, objects, power lines, machines, or whether that's the electromagnetic frequency from people and animals and the earth. We are picking up on all of that. And that's what becomes very confusing for people, is because they're picking up on lots of different things. It often manifests physically or as a generalized depression or anxiety. And what I do is help people go back and pick that apart, piece it apart, what really is it that you are picking up on? And then how can you work to understand that better and recalibrate so those things, you can process those things rather than them overwhelming you.
Do sensitive people have a more visceral reaction, a physical gut feeling, that is gut-wrenching feeling?
Absolutely. Yep. One of the studies I cited in my book was by Elaine Aron and her husband at Stony Brook University. She wrote The Highly Sensitive Person way back in the day and coined that term. So what they're doing now is she wants to demonstrate how there are physiological components to sensitivity, and they've proven that through MRIs showing more blood flow in the brain when sensitive people are exposed to certain stimuli.
Absolutely.
It's pretty fascinating.
We're going to continue this conversation with Dr. Kyra Mesich, Destination Unlimited on the OMTimes radio network. Please stay tuned.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Hi, this is Sylvia Henderson, intuitive life coach and energy healer. Are you ready to elevate and rise way above your normal? Be sure to listen to my show, Intuitive Transformations, on OMTimes Radio, Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Get the inspiration you need to transform your life.
Join me, Maggie Chula, on Mondays at noon Eastern for Mastermind with Maggie. Let's work together in a mastermind. We can resolve life's problems and create goals for the future. Build action steps empowering you to create your life in partnership with your divine source of light, your soul. Manifesting your goals can be simple and easy, so come with your problems and leave with a plan. The Akashic Master Teachers and I are waiting to help you.
What if we got rewarded for every good decision?
Dinner. Meal needs a vegetable. Check.
Amazing!
Vegetables cooked with a healthier oil instead of butter?
Fantastic! Replacing bad fats with healthier fats like those in canola or vegetable oil is good for your heart. Take up the challenge for good health because the you of the future will say,
fantastic!
Visit heart.org/face the fats. Canola Info proudly supports the American Heart Association's Face the Fats campaign.
And we're back on Destination Unlimited. My guest this evening, Dr. Kyra Mesich, author of the new book, Strength of Sensitivity, Understanding Empathy for a Life of Emotional Peace and Balance. And before the break, we were discussing what it's like to be an empath and the different feelings that people have. And you had mentioned about having issues with movies like Bambi and other stories where people who are empathic and sensitive end up crying at the end of those and wondering. And I got to share with you, I'm a fairly strapping guy. I'm over 200 pounds, and I cry at the end of a lot of movies. I went to see, several years ago, there was a movie called City of Angels. For those who remember that movie with Nicolas Cage and the actress, I can't remember her name, but he was an angel who gave up his angelness or his immortality or whatever you want to call it to fall to earth as a human being because of his love. And at the end, his love dies, and then he's left with nothing. And I cried like a baby when that movie was over. So
Hey, yeah, we just need to pack our tissues, and just do it. Just be willing to do that.
that's it.
The other thing that really impacts a lot of sensitive people with entertainment is violence or real negativity. There's certain movies and certain comedy where they think constant arguing is funny. Mm-hmm. And no, no. I mean, sensitive people we really are impacted by the harshness or negativity of certain energy. So it can be hard sometimes. Besides even just, is that movie going to be too sad, or is that going to pull at my heartstrings for no reason and make me sad, or is it going to be uncomfortable for me to go see that? So it is important for us to always kind of check Rotten Tomatoes or check some reviews before we go to things, just to give it a heads up, make sure that we want to see it, and then use our gut feeling, as we were talking about earlier, about is that going to be good for me or not.
And not to mention songs that come on the radio that stir up these feelings also, and memories.
Yeah.
And do you find that people are connected to memory, empathically connected to their memories? For example, something they ate once or had a meal with, or an old friend or something like that, and those memories stir up the same visceral sensations as the actual event at the time that it happened?
Oh, certainly. The way I like to think about it is, so our brains are kind of in a closed system, right? They're inside us. Your brain, when you think about something, it doesn't really know, is that happening right here, right now, outside of us? Mm-hmm. And it assumes that it is. So whether we're watching a movie, whether we are engaging, in a conversation with a person at the moment, or whether we're just thinking about the memory of doing it, well, it's kind of all the same.
It is.
Yeah. And so it can definitely bring up all the same senses and sensations.
So the neurochemistry kicks in and basically repeats it, whether it's actually a living event or something that comes from memory.
Right. And what happens for sensitive people is that, so let's say it was, I'll give a common example. So it was an argument at work or something. Okay, so when we had that argument, because we neurologically and physiologically react very strong. We have maybe a stronger cortisol dump and a stronger hormone dump, more blood flow to our brain and things like that. It's a really visceral experience when it happens. Mm-hmm. So therefore, anything that reminds us of that brings up all of those visceral feelings until we figure out ways that we can clear that and let that go. If we just let it sit, and this is a problem for a lot of sensitive people, we get almost overwhelmed. Our tank is full with all of these reactions we've had over our lives.
And we're going to discuss many of the tools that people can use to deal with this that are mentioned and beautifully illustrated in your book, Strength of Sensitivity. But let's finish about definitions and glossary right now. So we talked about being a sensitive. Now, how do you do you differentiate between a sensitive person, an empathic person, and let's take it one step further, a psychic person?
Okay. I take a different approach to this than is the common way of thinking about this. From my approach, I'll just come right out and say it, there really is no difference amongst those things. Okay. And the reason I say that is because if someone is sensitive, we're human beings, we're mammals, we're energetic creatures, all right?
Absolutely.
So mind, body, spirit, just like I said a little earlier, we're sensitive emotionally, physiologically, and energetically. You might not understand how you're empathic or energetically, it's sensitive. You might not exactly understand how your physiological symptoms like an autoimmune disease or irritable bowel or something, you might not understand exactly how your sensitivities relate to that, but they are. Mm-hmm. And so I blanket statement say that every sensitive person is empathic. Mm-hmm. Now, really, every mammal, every animal is empathic. Every person is empathic to a certain degree. But every sensitive person is pretty darn empathic. Well, again, like I said, different. Everybody's going to be different on the different scale, for different things. Some sensitive people are way crazy empathic. Some, they're pretty darn empathic and sensitive to energies, but it doesn't affect them as much as, some other components. But I really think it's a matter of understanding and accepting, and labels have no place for sensitive people.
Right.
We are what we are. We're sensitive to everything.
So everything in creation is energy in one form or another.
Right.
And the person who is sensitive or empathic is very receptive to those energies, more so than perhaps the average person.
Exactly. We're really just more tuned in to that energy. However you want to describe it, whether some people are going to say, okay, that's because of the physiological reactions. We are more finely tuned that way. Mm-hmm. Other people are going to say we have a higher vibration. Mm-hmm. Energetically, we're in we live in a slightly different dimension, more, and so therefore we have a foot in both worlds.
Absolutely.
More so than other people do.
Absolutely. So I think we've well defined what the sensitivity, empathic, and psychic realms are. So now, why did you decide to write this book for sensitive people?
Besides the fact I'm sensitive, and I really learned a heck of a lot over the things the universe put in my path, so that I would definitely learn about these things in my career. If any group in our society needs a cheerleader right now, it is sensitive people.
Oh, amen.
Yep.
100.
So that is why I did it. We've had centuries of a really intense, interesting take on what it means to be a human being. And it has been, I used to have a book, it was Isaac Asimov's History of the World. Mm-hmm. Nothing but battles. A huge, thick book, nothing but battles and wars and battles. And that's what it was. I mean, for centuries, that's what it's been. And conquering and, harshness and take. And the sensitive people have always been there. We've always been there. We've always been the artists. We've always been the caretakers. We've always been trying to find some place of peace. We've always been there. But it just didn't make sense to other people. It's like I said, it's two different energies we're kind of living in. Well, now times are changing. We are moving out of that in our society. In particular, we are moving and changing and evolving, and it doesn't have to be constant battle. Everybody's learning to work together a little more collectively. People are becoming more aware of, perhaps the way we treat our food and the way we prepare our food, these things really matter. Energy does matter. So our time is now, and that is why the book has been published now, because it's the first book I wrote was called The Sensitive Person's Survival Guide, and that was in 2000. Whoa, it's only 16 years, and now it's The Strength of Sensitivity, because I feel like things have changed that much in that amount of time.
I think just those who follow our current election cycle and who are sensitive are in a world of hurt right now if they don't have the tools to deal with this stuff.
Oh, heavens to Betsy. That opens up a whole can of worms. But, what we really have to do as sensitive people is step back a little bit and know that we always have the capacity to look at the greater perspective and look at how, what's happening right now is this struggle. It's a huge struggle between the old ways and wanting something new. Well, that's the way it works. I think you know that, Victor.
Absolutely.
That's the way it works. It doesn't just magically, everything's nice now. It just like in our own lives, when we need to make big changes in our lives, it's not pretty for a while.
I know.
So that's what we're dealing with right now, and I encourage all sensitive people, don't get discouraged. Look at this as very positive. That this is the old ways and everything I just talked about, the things that have been for centuries. Let's exclude people. Let's focus on money. Let's focus on how we can control. situations. Well, that's the way it's been forever. And the fact that it now is such the center of discussion and divides people so much, wow, well, that's really different than how it's ever been before, where people didn't even dare argue against that.
I was a child of the 60s and part of the Woodstock generation, and we were the idealists and the dreamers, and we saw these changes, these wonderful changes in brotherhood and taking care of each other and compassion and the end to wars and so on and so forth. And for whatever reason, I remember there's a line from an old song by Mountain from the 70s, and the line says, "We haven't come so far to lose our way." And I sincerely hope and pray, and I'm one with you in the fact that we are now on the verge of the great change.
Oh, yeah. You guys, you certainly set the stage, because it had to be that radical, didn't it?
Absolutely.
To change that energy from World War II and the 1950s, and it had to be radical. Now that change is happening again, but it's different, isn't it? It doesn't have to be so radical. It can be incorporated into what we do day to day, how businesses are changing, how our food supply is changing, and of course, as you know, being on the internet and people being to communicate and learn more so quickly, learn about things instantly, communicate instantly, that changes things dramatically.
The sensitive wisdom of Dr. Kyra Mesich, author of the new book, Strength of Sensitivity, Understanding Empathy for a Life of Emotional Peace and Balance. Kyra, please tell our listeners where they can get your book and find out more about you.
Well, the book, The Strength of Sensitivity, is published by Llewellyn Worldwide, and it's available in any bookstore. So you can order it on Amazon, or you can order it through your preferred independent bookseller. It's available everywhere. My website is easy to remember. It's drkyra.com, drkyra.com, and I have lots of information on there.
And we'll be back with more with Dr. Kyra Mesich after these messages on the OMTimes Radio Network.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Are you in an interfaith relationship and thinking of getting married? For 18 years, Reverend Laurie Sue Brockway has been creating personalized, loving, and romantic ceremonies for couples of all faiths and cultural backgrounds. Reverend Laurie Sue's sensitivity to the needs of interfaith couples is reflected in the compassionate and inclusive way she addresses the concerns of parents and families. Reverend Laurie Sue is also the author of several best-selling books on interfaith weddings and wedding vows. Selected as one of the top interfaith officiants by New York Magazine, Reverend Laurie Sue serves couples in the New York metropolitan area and beyond. Find out more at her website, yourinterfaithwedding.com.
Hello! Join us, Lisa Berry and Michelle Carter, every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for the Mindset Makeover, What's Possible. Get ready to become present, clear, and unstuck, and start living fully, led by your heart. While you listen and feel this transformation through vibration of word, sound, and song, you'll open up to what's possible and experience your shift.
And we're back on Destination Unlimited. My guest this evening, Dr. Kyra Mesich, author of the new book, The Strength of Sensitivity, Understanding Empathy for a Life of Emotional Peace and Balance. Kyra, what new perspectives does your book provide for sensitive people?
Well, how I begin the book is that first, what I want sensitive people to think back about, which really is something they've never done, is really how do we define ourselves and whom have we allowed to define us throughout our lives? An exercise I do is when you think about the word sensitive, or you think, I am sensitive, what are the first words that occur to you? And often people will immediately say, weak, high maintenance, sad, things like that. And then I have to say, whoa, whoa, whoa. If that's truly what you believe about sensitivity, and then you say, I'm a sensitive person, you just said that you're weak, that you're sad. So we first dissect that. We just have to get rid of that and change it.
Why has sensitivity been regarded as weakness?
What I do is, as I can, connect back to what we were talking about earlier, which was that for centuries, so it was generations upon generations, sensitivity was not a valued trait. Conquering, eliminating the competition, harshness, loudness, those were the things that were considered to be strength. And so what it really reminds me of, maybe you can get behind me on this one. Not a lot of people know what I'm talking about when I reference this, but so The Twilight Zone. I used to watch The Twilight Zone when I was a kid.
Me too.
All the time.
Me too.
There was an episode of The Twilight Zone where a beautiful blonde actress, she was Ellie Mae Clampett from the Beverly Hillbillies.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Donna Douglas. Go ahead.
Yes, she was. You're right on there. I knew you could follow me on this. So she was in a world where she considered herself to be really damaged goods and very ugly.
Absolutely.
And it turns out at the end of the episode, well, that particular society, they just were an ugly bunch. So to them, she was ugly.
Absolutely.
Whereas from our perspective, she was beautiful.
I believe they had pig faces. The actual people had pig faces.
Did.
Yes,
I remember that episode so clearly, and
Yeah.
maybe that's because I was sensitive at the time, and it spoke to me on a unconscious, kind of level. But I go back to that, and I think of that now. Why is sensitivity considered a weakness? Not because it is, just because that's been the qualities of society.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. And some people have grown up in families where maybe there was a little harsher, take on that. Maybe they were abused, or there was trauma in the family, or there was a lot of times it's neglect, or it's a really harsh parent who says, no, you got to do it this way, a very rigid situation. And that really sets up people to feel like there's something intrinsically wrong with the way they are. And that's what I aim to fix.
Absolutely. And what other new perspectives does your book bring to bear for sensitive folks?
Well, then the next perspective is defining sensitivity from that holistic point of view, like I referenced earlier, mind, body, energy. Really understanding energy. So when I say empathic, that often manifests as somebody literally feeling what someone else is feeling. So that other person, I'll just keep using work as an example. So they're in the cubicle next to you at work, and you don't know what's going on with them. You're both doing your work, and then all of a sudden you're hit with like a real headache and a real sadness. You're like, what's going on with me? Mm-hmm. I guess I'm upset about, this thing I have to do later, but then you overhear your coworkers talking on the phone to a family member, and a cousin died, or something, and that's not coincidence. It isn't a coincidence. It is you literally feeling what's going on with them. Why? Because emotions are energy.
Absolutely.
And so people just need to be aware that exists. It exists. It's real. And then once you understand it exists, then you can begin to listen to that more clearly within yourself so that it doesn't take over your own emotions. You can sense it more like intuition, more like, oh, there's something going on with him. There's something going on with someone. Oh, and it's not your own stuff. But how can you possibly do that if you don't even know empathic ability exists? So it's that information is what I want people to understand.
Classic example, you walk into a crowded room and you don't really see a person there, but you have this feeling of either attraction or repulsion to someone you've never met standing in the middle of a room. And what you're doing is you're picking up on their energy and who they are and what they're about. That's something that many people experience and don't understand why.
Yeah, gosh, there can be so many different reasons, why, but there's something about that person's energy. And you need to trust that. A lot of sensitive people, because we're kind, and have big hearts and stuff, they'll feel bad if they don't like someone. And no, you just got to trust your intuition. If you have an icky feeling around someone, or like you said, you actually feel repulsed away, like magnetically repulsed away from that person, well, listen to that. There's a reason why. Now, someone can be annoying, and that's different. It's when you really feel that in your gut, and it's almost overwhelming, then yeah, it's the truth of the energy, and we're feeling the truth.
And it might not even be, you might not even physically see them clearly, you mean, or hear them speaking or anything. There may not be any direct physical, what's the word I'm looking for, observation, but you have that feeling, you have that sensation.
Yeah, this is a tricky thing for empathic people. Now, I was really lucky in my life because I was a psychotherapist. So I realized how empathic I was when I was working with clients. And I would sit in a room with them for 50 minutes. They would tell me exactly what they were going through, and I could identify, well, heck yeah, that's exactly what I was feeling last night.
Absolutely.
How many people are in that situation?
Absolutely.
Family members, your coworkers, your friends, they're not going to tell you everything. That they usually try to hide things. So that's I understand that's the challenge of being empathic, and sometimes feelings don't get verified for a while. But usually they will eventually. But that's where trust comes in, and that's the hardest thing for a lot of sensitive, empathic, intuitive people, is learning to trust what they're feeling and know that even if it's not validated immediately, it's still real.
Line from a wonderful Moody Blues song by Justin Hayward called The Voice. And the line says, make a promise, take a vow, and trust your feelings. It's easy now. Understand the voice within and feel a change already beginning. I think that sort of sums up what we're talking about in terms of being able to trust those feelings. Now, you mentioned being a psychotherapist. Well, there are lots of people who are not psychotherapists, family members, friends, who seem to be magnets for those who need to spill everything and anything. And most of us who are sensitive strive to be compassionate. But where do you draw the boundary line between being compassionate and being, shall we say, the pincushion for someone who just needs to dump?
Yep, dump is the word, and that's the question I get at workshops a lot of the time is, how can I get my friends to understand, don't dump on me, especially if I'm already stressed. And it's like the other people don't even notice that about us sometimes. So there's a few ways to address that. There's a lot of techniques that I talk about in my book for recalibrating how you pick up on people's energy. But there's a reason that we're called bleeding hearts. Okay, Victor. Yes, people are attracted to us because they can sense that we're empathic. They can sense that we'll know what to say. They can sense that we'll help, and on an unconscious or sometimes conscious level, they want us to help them process their emotions. And if we're empathic and we're taking on their emotions for them, that's helpful for them in a sick way, not in a good way, not in a healthy way.
Absolutely.
So sure, it can happen. So first of all is realizing how empathic you might be, and awareness can actually prevent you from taking on other people's stuff as much. A holistic modality that I talk about a lot in the book is called fluorescence therapy. It's not aromatherapy. Fluorescences are energetic remedies, kind of like homeopathy. It's unfortunate that the word is so similar to essential oils and aromatherapy, but they're different things. And I talk about those because they can really help people recalibrate their empathic ability so that it is easier to set up boundaries, because we can talk till we're blue in the face about how, gosh, you should have, I mean, every sensitive person already knows this. Gosh, I should have better boundaries, or I should be able to stand up for myself. I should be able to say no.
Why is the no word, the N word, no, so hard for sensitive people to say?
Because it's not a mental issue. It's not knowing. It has a few facets to it. One is that energetic component. Another is sensitive people, like I said, we feel like something is wrong with us. So therefore we feel like our value is in helping other people. So if we say no, am I still valuable?
Absolutely.
And then just plain wanting to help. Just plain wanting to help, wanting to help bring peace into people's lives.
But there also has to be boundary, because these people could draw from you and reflect off of you and look for answers from you until it has a deleterious effect on you, and that's not good.
Absolutely. So we'll need to continue that in our next segment, probably, because that's a long answer.
Absolutely. My guest this evening, Dr. Kyra Mesich, author of the new book, Strength of Sensitivity, Understanding Empathy for a Life of Emotional Peace and Balance. And we'll be back with more with Kyra after these messages on the OMTimes Radio Network. Please stay tuned.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Every Tuesday on Living with Moxie, join Shefali Burns and Donna Martouge in conversations designed to take you to the next level, where we highlight ideas, resources, and strategies that provide you with the leverage you require to meet and exceed your business and personal goals. Each week on Living with Moxie, we will lead conversations related to success, achievement, fulfillment, and extraordinary, vibrant living. Are you ready to live with Moxie? Join us.
And we're back on Destination Unlimited. My guest this evening, Dr. Kyra Mesich, author of the book, Strength of Sensitivity, Understanding Empathy for a Life of Emotional Peace and Balance. And before the break, we were talking about the question of boundaries. How does one lovingly and compassionately create a boundary? What are the rules?
I have a really different take. Hi, surprise. I have a different take on boundaries than a lot of other people do. I'd like you to think for a second about what that word boundary really means. And is that really possible? So if you think about the word boundary, a lot of sensitive people tend to think they need protection. They need psychic protection. They need boundaries. They need walls. So you almost think about like the moat around a castle, or walls, or a suit of armor.
Or wearing a tinfoil hat like they did in the movie Signs.
It's hilarious. So that constricts our, if you think about that energetically, that constricts our freedom. Whether it is our freedom to just express our energy, or whether it is our freedom to not have people look at us goofy because we're wearing a tin hat, you know?
Right.
So I do not judge anyone who uses the term boundary or uses the term psychic protection or writes things about psychic protection. We have to use words that people are going to understand. And so I'm just taking it to the next level. And I like sensitive people to understand that it's not about that. It's about reclaiming your strength, reclaiming your identity, reclaiming your strength, doing some recalibration, and finding your own light. So the more you can connect in with your strength, your light, for some people that takes a lot of steps. First, they need to think about maybe that light of divinity or God within themselves, and they can use that as a bridge, to find that light within of themselves. When that radiates strongly, that is what changes how people react to you. People will not take advantage of you. People will respect you because they're reacting to your energy. If you feel like you need to have a boundary up, you need to have protection, it's first of all not truly possible because we're all energy, so you cannot put up a wall. I like people to think about that. Like, think about your skin. That's a boundary that keeps your insides from falling out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's completely permeable.
Absolutely, yeah.
Completely permeable. Stuff comes out. Sweat and stuff comes out. Stuff goes in. That's why people can use hormone creams and things like and essential oils, because it just absorbs right into your skin, right into your bloodstream. So any and every boundary is permeable. What we need to do is figure out and accept that it's okay. We're not being hurt and bombarded purposely by people. In general, every once in a while there's a baddie, but in general, people aren't doing that on purpose. It's just it's a thing about energy and what they're perceiving we want from them, and what they're perceiving would bring balance into that situation. Mm-hmm. So I hope that makes sense. And it's a really different take on it, and I usually have to explain that to people a few times.
It's funny. I just had this vision being involved in part of my life in electronics and electricity. This vision of taking copper mesh and rolling it around ourselves like making a shield, and then grounding it to an iron pipe into the earth or a copper pipe into the earth. And even that would not be a true energy boundary because it is permeable.
Right, our own Faraday cage or something.
Our
right.
own Faraday cage, exactly. That'd
right.
be a funny thing to do.
So it's bringing up when you bring up the earth. That's a good point. Grounding is very important for sensitive people. For that very reason, there's a reason every electrical outlet has a ground. We're electrical, so we need to have grounding as well. And we do that by walking on the earth, by mingling with the trees, by eating grounding foods. And that's a huge part of it as well, so that we understand that provides strength in what we want to think about as boundaries as well. When we are grounded and we have places to release what we do pick up from other people.
Absolutely. My greatest source of healing and rejuvenation comes from either the ocean, being by the ocean, or being in the mountain by the trees. I'm a Capricorn with Aquarius on the cusp, so I have both of those modalities
sure.
as part of me, and just being by the water or being
sure.
by the trees.
And people might not think of the ocean as grounding, but that is salt water.
Absolutely.
And it is, and so in an emergency, a salt bath. It doesn't have to be an emergency. As a regular maintenance site, salt baths have a more profound effect than people realize.
The world's biggest electrolyte is all around us in the oceans and any place that there's salt water, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So now, how can people who are empathic and sensitive experience emotions more comfortably?
So are you talking about their own emotions or other people's emotions?
Other people's emotions.
Okay. First of all, I think, is to realize that it's okay for other people to have emotions, other people to be sad, other people to be frustrated. We don't need to fix it. We get uncomfortable when other people are uncomfortable. And here's the thing I try to explain to people. When we're empathic, we are literally, truly picking up on that raw emotional energy. So sometimes we perceive that as being even more of an emergency as the person themselves does, because we experience the raw energy of it. So say they're just really upset about something. It's an impending problems with their relationship. They're really upset about something. Sometimes it hits us so hard. It's like, emergency. I have to help this person. I have to talk to them. I have to figure it out. And they're saying, well, yeah, but, can we do it tomorrow? I mean, I'm kind of busy about some things right now. And so we have to look out for that, for us perceiving it even more dramatically, than they do, and understand that they can hold. Other people can contain their own emotions. They can do it. They can hold it. I'm a psychotherapist, all right, so I have years of experience doing this. I understand that's easier said than done. But just, I think, even acknowledging that and understanding how often are you trying to do that, fix someone before they really need that. They can hold it for a while. And then also, like I said, some of the things I talk about, fluorescence therapy, certain types of meditations, so that we allow this to flow through us. So rather than what we were talking about earlier, boundaries, allowing this energy to flow through us so that we can experience it. Okay, how does that relate to me? What do I need to know about it? What do I need to know about my relationship with this person? And then let it go.
Absolutely.
Or allow it to flow.
Absolutely. And for those of us who do energy healing work and have been in this field for a long time, we recognize that there is a universal source, an unlimited source of this energy that we're talking about. And to allow that to flow through us, channel through us, rather than come from us, is another way of replenishing, giving, and receiving at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, one of the things we haven't talked about, though, not that we haven't talked about, one of the characters that we haven't mentioned before when we were talking about sensing someone's energy is what we will call the EVs, the energy vampires. How do you deal with those?
All right. Number one, trust your instincts. I'm going to say it again. Number two, trust your instincts. That's where we get in trouble. Mm-hmm. Really, 100% of the time. It's not that we don't know. Mm-hmm. Oh, every once in a while people will say, I got fooled, or they weren't who I thought they were. Mm-hmm. What word did you just use? Thought.
Yep.
Who you expected them to be or who they said they were, that wasn't your gut feeling about it. Mm-hmm. So that's number one. So if you trust your instincts, you will know to be cautious, wary around that person. Now, they came into your life somehow, so you might mean they're a teacher or they're a coworker or a friend of a friend or something. So it might not be that easy to keep your distance from them initially. That still should be the eventual goal, though. Sorry, but that's just the facts. If someone is a truly an emotional vampire, that's how they operate. They don't know how to create their own energy. Like you were just talking about, that universal source of energy, they're not tapped into it. They get it from other people. Yeah. So it's not your job to teach them.
Absolutely.
How to do that. They'll figure that out on their own. And so it's about trust again, because other people are not going to see it. They're not going to feel it. They're going to say, oh, aren't they nice? Gosh, they have such charisma, and things like that. And you're going to say, oh, I can't stand being around that person. Stick to your guns.
We have about a minute left, and I wish we had more time because this topic is so wonderful. What would be the most important thing you would want sensitive people to know?
Can I choose two?
Go ahead.
All right. Number one is to realize that as a sensitive person, that doesn't mean you were not put here on this earth to be uncomfortable. that you're not doomed to be uncomfortable because you're sensitive. We were put here to understand who we are. And so the part 2 is then the most important thing for sensitive people to do is to take care of ourselves, to reclaim our self-confidence, to reclaim our own energy, and to be selfish and take care of ourselves. Those are the 2 most important points I like to make.
And when I teach healing begins at home, just like charity. You have to take care of yourself, because if you don't really take care of yourself, you truly cannot take care of others.
That's the truth. I liken that to the on the airplane, put on your own oxygen mask before assisting others.
Absolutely. Our wonderful guest, Dr. Kyra Mesich, author of the new book, Strength of Sensitivity, Understanding Empathy for a Life of Emotional Peace and Balance. Kyra, please tell our listeners how they can find your book and find out more about you and your work.
Okay, The Strength of Sensitivity is published by Llewellyn worldwide, and it is available through all booksellers throughout North America. So you can buy it online, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. You can go to my website, which is drkyra.com, drkyra.com, and I also have a link there. And I hope people will come and visit me at my website. I see clients in the Twin Cities, Minnesota area, and I also do phone sessions. And I have quite a bit of information, articles, and I'm starting to, I need to make sure I get this done, post a whole lot more meditations on YouTube.
Wonderful. Kyra, thank you so much for joining us and bringing this wonderful information and your experience to our listeners.
Well, you're going to need to have me on again because this was delightful.
Absolutely. And that is Destination Unlimited. I'm Victor the Voice Furman. Thank you all for joining us, and see you next week. Good night, everyone.